Do you want to be known as one of the greats, or do you not give a shit about that? You just want to make cool stuff?
Well, my plan is I'm gonna work extremely hard. I know artists, they usually use a gallery as a crutch and promote their work, but I'm like, can I be my own dealer, sell my own work, promote myself, and build up my reputation? For an example, I don't want to just be like this Instagram-y, TikTok-y, like viral videos. Like that is not a good look, and I definitely avoid it.
Okay, so this is my boy Joseph. How did we originally get introduced? Social media, right?
Yeah, Kim Desio. Yeah.
Okay, bet. Yeah, so someone that I worked with on a little project introduced us, and I think we just kind of got along because you were fraternity president as well, right?
I was, yeah.
And I think you just said to me, you're like, yo, you get it, bro. So we just started talking. Brilliant artist, as you guys can see. And so, dude, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I got pretty much all of my work, and then like you see the one up there, like that is well-known New York artist. And then like I was saying, the guy with the red sculpture, he's a big name. This is where I do all the painting. I work on multiple at the same time usually.
Every once in a while, I'll see like Joseph post a little like 4 a.m. pic, and I'll be like, wait, are you still awake? You're like, yeah.
I mean, I work 24/7 basically. Like I'll leave to go meet with people, like kind of network, but I'm really in here all the time.
You're going to networking events all the time. What does that split look like? Like, what percentage of your time is actually being an artist versus networking in the business behind the scenes?
It varies a lot just depending on what's going on that week, but I would say I spend at least like 1 day out of the 7 days a week, like making a concerted effort to go out and meet people and go to a certain event. Sometimes it can be 4 days out of the 7, which I don't like because I just prefer to be here painting. But you know, it's part of the game. Like this, I've already done 2, and what is it, Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday. And so I've already had 2 that have taken up a lot of the time this week, and you know, I just, otherwise, like this painting actually started probably on Sunday, so I'm already pretty far along. But like that's what I've been working on in between going to events and just meeting people. And like I was at a dinner the other night with a bunch of lawyers, which are good people to know. So.
Hell yeah, I need some of those right now. Getting rinsed. Can you take us through your process? Like how does a typical blank canvas to finished product look?
My main subject matter is those character paintings, which like you can see that's like the majority of the work all over the place. But the characters, I think of a general aesthetic or idea. Like I have a few drawings down there, but it's like kind of like the structure of the figure, and then I just start blocking in color because usually they are pretty colorful, and it will like eventually like I keep layering and forming, and you kind of like this is getting more meticulous now where I'm like, okay, from like a design fundamental standpoint, like how am I going to structure the rest of this and make it like a compelling painting? And that's sort of the phase I'm on, where I'm like, I'm layering in and I'm adding elements to it to make the painting interesting. And like a lot of that will be like, I'll actually sit on this couch and look at it for a while, and like once an idea comes into my mind, then I'll go and add it. But it's kind of like this, you know, just figure also like when you use all the color, like you need to figure out how to like combine them in a way that makes the work or the colors like color theory, right? Like colors work together well. Like how do you figure that out? So that's kind of a puzzle too. So like I said, it is pretty methodical, but
do you draw it? Do you do it as it goes, or do you have an image in your mind and you're like, okay, that's what I have to do now?
Yeah, no, I don't ever draw. A lot of people draw beforehand, but I just kind of like to see where it takes me as far as like I add something in, like a sort of a block of color really, and like, okay, what should I build off of that now? Like based on the color, based on the shape of it, like, you know, it is, again, like it is a lot like a puzzle really. As far as like my specific process goes, I know it varies wildly between like what you're painting and who the artist is, but that is like sort of fundamentally how I go about it.
And so I'm curious, as an artist, do you just do it because obviously you love it, but is that like the main, is there some sort of like long-term end goal? Like, do you want to be known as one of the greats, or do you not give a shit about that? You just want to make cool stuff? Or are there any sort of like benchmarks that you try and hold yourself to long-term?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up painting and drawing. My grandfather he's been an artist for most of his life. So because of that, it's always been something like, I think it's been my favorite thing to do for, you know, my whole life. It was my childhood dream for a career. And I didn't even know it was a viable career and this industry really existed in the capacity that it does until like I started educating myself about it, because my grandfather was never a full-time artist. He was just always essentially a hobbyist. He's a great artist, but he taught me a lot, but I was never really fully exposed to like the complete animal that the art world is. And once I started to learn about that, which was like really into college, I spent all of my time right after being president of my fraternity building it up, and it luckily took off while I was in college where it became viable. But then I kept learning and learning, and I was like, okay, there's all these interesting people with all these crazy careers. They're represented by amazing galleries. And so, yeah, that's when I figured out, okay, well, my plan is I'm going to work extremely hard. I know artists tend to be, and stereotypically, and it is kind of accurate, like there's a lot of people who kind of like let things happen by themselves, and they usually use a gallery as a crutch to like support them and promote their work. But I'm like, okay, what can I do, and can I be my own dealer, sell my own work, promote myself, and build up my reputation, and like being very conscientious about doing everything the right way, and making sure that I can like respect every kind of formal process that goes on in the art world, which I'm trying to be very careful about. Like, for an example, I don't want to just be like this Instagram-y, like viral.
Yeah, I totally get why that would be like off-putting to some people,
Yeah.
but you're also using that to your advantage, right?
Well, so you do it very tastefully, right? Yeah. And you'll have like, this is something that I tell a lot of people who are new to like learning about really like certain artists and things like that. Like people who do like the really Instagram-y, TikTok-y, like viral videos, like that is not a good look, and I definitely avoid it. But it's, but then again, like if you need to sell work to continue your practice, like you got to do what you got to do. But what my plan is, with that said, and like to do sort of the traditional route eventually, as like right now I'm promoting myself, is to build things up and work with one of the best galleries when the time is right. So it will probably be in a while, because you sort of you have to wait your turn, and you have to develop your work and develop a really solid body of work that's, causes it to be warranted for a great gallery to bring you on. So that's kind of the process I'm in right now, working my way, and like I'm doing really well at the selling part, so like I'm able to sustain the practice well. So I'm like putting myself in this pretty unique position where like I can handle all that while also making work and really developing as an artist. And then, I think with all the hours I put in, I think it's looking like it's all gonna sort of pay off and play out where like I'll be represented by a great gallery later into the career, and then I can
might not even need it, dude. Maybe you start your own.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's like the thing is, when you have like, I'm a complete art nerd, and you'll go to like New York City, which is the epicenter of the art world, and you see all these best galleries, like the best galleries in the world have locations there. And I'll fantasize about like, wow, how amazing would it be to someday be represented by this gallery?
Oh, I can totally get that. Mm-hmm. So why Miami? Why do you pick Miami?
Yeah, I just grew up a Pennsylvania kid, and just the weather would really get me down. Like, especially at Penn State, like when you're in rural America and you have to walk to all your classes, and those winters are so long and there's just not much to do. Like, New York's a little more entertaining, but once I started to spend time in Florida, I was like, oh my God, the quality of life here is so high. Like, I don't get seasonal depression, obviously, because it's not like you have blue skies and it's sunny every day. And so I just like the quality of life standpoint, like that was an easy sale for me. And then also just like from the business standpoint, again, you have like this demographic of really generally young, successful people that like have interest in the art and culture and would be great people to, potentially sell to. And like, those are the kind of people I get along with anyway. So it all made a lot of sense.
I always think it's good to get to a market first, right? And you're probably one of the you're probably one of the first and younger up and coming artists in Miami, I would assume.
Yeah.
At least in your niche.
No, 100%. And like you'll see again, like that artist up in the corner there, like she's a well-known young Miami artist, and she's like a peer of mine, but there's like very few. There's not many at all. So it is nice because you don't have to break through all the levels or like the gates that you might have to in New York City. So that's exactly right. Yeah.
On the back end side of things, like within the business, how do you decide? This is what I'm sure a lot of people are always curious about. How do you decide like how much to charge? Is it based on hours? Is it based on how long you've been thinking of the concept? Or how do you
have like generally what your, say, market is and like the market of people in your age, and you charge essentially by square inch. So like you'll have an average square inch, and like you can see like, okay, what can I sell this for? How are people responding to that price? Take it into account, and like that's my pricing for like a particular size. Like I have a lot I do in this that's hanging on the wall, 48 by 36 inch size, and like that is usually like around $6,000. So.
Nice.
So
And how long did that one take to?
It's hard to, so like, and this is a funny, everyone asks this question, and it's a very interesting question. I like when I hear the answer of, because artists kind of laugh at it, but I actually like to ask it, and I do find a lot of interest in it, because like I meet a lot of artists who make this amazing intricate work, and like that's the first question that comes to mind for me as well. But what I do specifically for my process, besides that tangent, is like I will work on it for maybe 60 hours, and then I'm like, okay, I'm kind of stuck here, because it's like I'm not painting realism, so you have to come up with all these ideas sort of out of nowhere. And because of that, it's like kind of like an exercise where like I feel like it's like a mental version of lifting weights, where it's like you exert and you have to like foster this energy that comes in and like allows you to come up with these ideas. And then I kind of like, after that point of like 60 or so hours, I get stuck, and then I let it sit for maybe even like months to a year. And then as I make more paintings, I'm essentially more informed. I develop my practice, and I have like I have a more formed approach to like, I've maybe come up with a new iconography to add, or just like a different way to apply the medium. And like then I'll add probably another 40 or so hours, right? So maybe 100 hours on a painting, if I had to guess. But it is very spotty, and like also the larger ones take longer, obviously. So it's a little bit, as far as like my specific process goes, it's kind of a difficult question to answer.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Dude, one of my, that really reminded me of, it's literally one of my favorite quotes ever. And I don't know anything about art. I can appreciate it, but I really don't know too much about it. But I think this quote kind of applies to like everything else in life. I think it was Picasso, and I don't want to botch it, but it's about that lady who asked him to draw something on an app. This lady, do you know the story?
Yeah, I do.
You could probably tell it better than me, but I think this applies to everything in life.
Yeah. So I mean, Picasso's probably around 40 years old, I think, when that story occurred. But he was at a restaurant, and a woman came up to him, and she said, "Oh my God, you're Pablo Picasso. Can you please draw something for me?" And he draws, like I think like a napkin or something, and he gives it to her, and he, tells her the price of it. And she's like, "Well, you just sat there and made that."
How much was it?
In a few minutes.
Something crazy, right?
Yeah, it's such a commonly told story, and I think I've heard it, but like no, it's some crazy number probably. And she was like, "But you just sat there and drew it in a couple minutes." He's like, "No, that took me 40 years to make." And that's actually, it sounds very what's the word, like fantastic, as far as like, or this like exaggerative kind of statement for someone to say like, no, it took me like all these years. But it's I meet artists who have spent so much time, like that 10,000 hour rule, like plus like maybe add 40,000 hours, and like someone who's like in their 40s by that point, and they've created work for that long, they become so good and skilled and just able to apply a medium in such a way that it's so unique to them, but also well done. Like once you start to look at a lot of art, and like whether also for an artist too, like the more paintings I make, the more time I spend painting, and the more art I look at, which can apply to also someone who just looks at art. Like you can tell when someone's really good, no matter how like simple it can really be. So, when you have like someone who's doing a quick drawing, again, if you have all those years of that of that development, like it really does show one way or another. Like I meet a lot of artists who, and like this is an anecdote related to that, where my friend wanted to collect a work of art from this guy who's, a little older than his 40s now, but he's been making work for more than 25 years and painting more than, probably 8 hours a day for that long. Like he created a large painting that my friend collected, and he was like, wow, I expected this to take longer. I'm like, no, dude, he's such a master of what he does that's like, of course, like for me, like I completely understood that's how it goes.
It's better when it's fat. Whenever I'm doing deals with someone, having someone design me a new website, have someone creating a new product design for us, I'm always asking them, like, how long is this going to take? They tell me it'll take about a month, 4 weeks. I go, okay, how about I pay you double and you do it in a week? Because I know you're going to wait 3 weeks and then you're going to, like, I will. It's not about time, right? And it's the same thing with like the best people at what they do at whatever profession are usually pretty quick with it. And it's the same reason, like if I'm selling my time, like I don't know if you knew this, but I do calls with people, right? They can like pay me to talk to me. They can ask life advice, business advice, networking advice, whatever. When I first started it, I would charge like $50 for an hour. Now I charge like $500 for an hour. I paid $1,200 the other day to talk to someone for 30 minutes who's like way more successful than me, right? Everyone looks at time the wrong way, I like to think. And so, yeah, I don't know, it just reminded me of that. And I think that's the most valuable asset we have, and it's only going away. So the best people know how to make the most use of it, you could say.
Most use of it, and then like maybe a specific thing that you're doing, like that time that it all culminates too. It's like you have a certain amount of inputs, and if it's always towards, like, for an example, like you can see through your fitness business, like your clothing brand, like whatever the input is, like that doesn't just go away. Like that's all gonna just whether it goes towards the product becoming better or just, you know, you have more identification towards your brand. Like you have like this concept that's kind of similar, but for like very specifically for an artist like you, that time that you spend developing, it's always there. And that's why, like, again, I want to do everything the right way, because I have so much respect for all those people who did it, you know, in the certain methodology and put in the time and figure it out their own ways to make their unique work as good as it is. And I mean, whether it's a brand or whatever it is, you can't get around the hours. You have to, and it's such a long process. And when you have anything that's great, that's what it takes.
I think most people, I like that, and that just made me think of something. I think most people would probably assume that in order for me to make SquidHaus, my business, as successful as possible, I would have to spend a lot of time focusing on the products. In reality, I don't spend any time focusing on the products. We have our product guy, our designers, our creative director. All my time is spent talking to dope people, because the more dope people that we can get to believe in us, believe in our brand, wear the brand, whatever, the more valuable the actual products become because they're on cooler people. I think that's something that people don't really think about. And it's the same thing with you and your business, right? Like you can make something that's super, super cool. You can spend thousands of hours on it, but if no one can see it and no one knows about it, it's pretty much worthless, right? Not to you, but to everybody else.
No, you're right, yeah.
So you need to be really good at networking and talking to people and socializing in every single business, even the ones people traditionally would think are pretty isolating or lonely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the reason why my business is going really well is because I'm effective with that, with also like being able to be the product designer. But like that's why, like, and it affirms what I'm saying. Like you have those product designers and the people really honing in or developing your product because they've had that experience and they know what you need to do to optimize like kind of quality or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, you can see it with like designers or whoever it is, not just like someone who's a brush on a canvas, but it's always has an application, everything, whether it's like even zoning for like building a city, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Dude, in terms of your background, so you're obviously a brilliant artist. In most cases, I feel like artists are not even in Greek life to begin with, especially fraternity presidents. Why did you decide to do Greek life? Why did you decide to go to a big party school too? It's a great school, but it's a party school for sure.
I went to small high school, and I was thinking about going to art school because, like I said, art was always a big part of my life. But I knew I wouldn't fit in an art school. And since at that time I didn't know that there's really a career to be had as an artist, I was like, all right, I'll go to a big school, join a fraternity. My dad was in a fraternity at Penn State, actually. He also went there, and he was very involved with that. So, that's really like, I was like, okay, this is what makes sense for me. And then once I got to it, and I loved it. It was amazing, as you probably have extremely fond memories when you had it for you. But man, it is so challenging, and it was really hard to make everyone happy, which is like at the end of the day what you want to do. And
you get no credit.
It is very thankless, but like, you know, I understand everyone's there to have a good time.
You get the personal value though. You get the personal value out of seeing everyone else be happy and you know, knowing that you built that or whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, even now when I see my friends who like I remember having those good times with, like out there doing their own thing, staying in New York and smiling, having a good time on social media, it makes me smile. And it's like, that is such a special thing, and being able to learn all you learn from that position too, like, therefore, it completely made up for like how challenging it was. But you know, with that said, I was president, and
how big was your house, by the way?
Like 140.
Oh, nice. Yeah, mine was about the same.
Yeah. Penn State's very big Greek life, as Arizona, right? Yeah. And then, you know, that was my sophomore year. After that, I left the fraternity, and I was a very good student. And I spent, you know, my time in class. I did a bunch of extracurriculars because I was building my college resume, because I didn't think that art was going to work full-time or be viable. So I spent all my time in class, at extracurriculars, like leading clubs and stuff. And then I'd get home at night, you know, maybe get a lift in or something, sit my ass down and work through the whole night, nothing else, for at least those last 2 years of college. Since, you know, the fraternity stuff's during the school year.
Yeah.
Summer after my sophomore year, like, I also spent like just completely working. I went out and socialized between my junior and senior year. I mean, maybe only a couple times.
Really? So you went from being, like, everyone thinks being fraternity, whenever I tell someone that fraternity president, big party school, they're like, oh shit, that must have been awesome. And like, it is, but it's also like a fucking grind. So you were managing, doing well in school, while running the frat, which is a whole business that brings in almost $1 million a year in most cases, while being an artist, and then you just stopped after that? Well, did you have lots of friends that were like, yo, come out?
Well, no, yeah. So what happened was I did the school stuff and the extracurriculars and the president stuff, but then after I left the fraternity is when I like returned to the painting. So it was,
you left the fraternity?
Yeah.
Oh, you actually dropped it?
I went,
Wait, that's crazy.
I went completely, fully into...
Did people ever say you think you're too good?
No, it was...
Or they understood?
Yeah, and it was a complicated situation, but you know, everyone ended up understanding, you know? Like now, like I said, I love all those guys. I mean, and we had such great memories, but if that wouldn't have happened, me leaving... If that wouldn't have happened, then I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah.
I would, like, I'd be working some, you know, marketing job, probably I'd be in corporate America, probably in New York City or a city I didn't want to live in.
That's a great lesson for, I think most of the people that watch our stuff are probably out of college at this point, but it still applies. Like, if you want to go somewhere that is foreign to you, and especially your friends, you're probably gonna have to distance yourself for a little bit. Yeah. I don't see any way how you can't do that and move as fast.
Who do you know, and I say this to people who want to do something that takes, you know, a big sacrifice. Like, who do you know, because I'm sure you've learned of plenty of successful founders, and like you met them, you've learned about them. Is there a single one that didn't do an extreme sacrifice to get there? There's not a single one.
Everyone has to go through it, and it just depends when you do it. You know, one of our other friends that we're hanging out with, he's extremely young and extremely successful, and he gave up his entire like youth pretty much to build his foundation. Me personally, I was always kind of I started really, really early. Like, I was starting business since I was like 9, but I never really had to go all in on them. It was like side hustle here, side hustle there. Until, junior year, I was like, all right, we're gonna I also still went out and partied all the time. I just didn't show up to class at all. So all I would do is work on the business all throughout the day, and then I'd go out at night, and then I'd cheat, and I'd use ChatGPT, thank God.
Yeah.
And I still actually got better grades using ChatGPT than I did when I was fucking studying, which is crazy.
Good timing for that to come out, I guess.
Oh yeah, dude, take advantage of resources. And then, but I did go through like 6 months post-grad where I didn't go out once, it was just grinding. Fucking like 16 hours a day probably.
Well,
but it's worth it.
It is funny because I think back on this because we've known each other for a couple years now digitally. And I remember when I think it was like pretty early into me moving here and we were on the phone.
Yeah.
And you were saying how like you still really value or make a significant or a decent amount of time for like, you know, whether it is like enjoying yourself, right?
Yeah.
And now you're like fully all into SquidHaus, right? And you're spending all that time just like building up what you're building.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is it made me think because I'm like, I was sort of like where you are now, where it's like fully just focused, like tunnel vision, just all my time goes towards this. And I was like, oh, maybe I should be, you know, sort of following that track. Cause like
going out a little.
You're obviously doing really well, and like things were working out sort of perfectly. At least, you know, it's like then I was like, okay, is this the right move? But then, you know, I look back on things and like how focused I was in college and sort of considering like the people I look up to and like how they lived. And I'm like, no, this is the answer, I think. And it's like, cause I really care about doing everything to the max amount that I want to. Like, I think my purpose is to be an artist and to be as great of an artist as possible. And with that comes pretty much the optimal or significant sacrifice where like those moments when I want to sort of indulge, right? I'm like, no.
Are you doing any indulging right now? I'm sure you don't go out on a weekly basis or anything like that, but do you ever go on like, you know, cool, I know we got that trip coming up.
Yeah, I go to dinner with people.
Nice.
And that's like, that is a complete blast for me. I was going to jiu-jitsu as we talked to.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that was really fun, but also just like, again, like I was like, I need to go like at least work 16 hours a day, and so therefore jiu-jitsu wasn't really fitting into the equation.
Dude, sometimes I'm on the same wave right now, but I will say I think when you can go on a big awesome trip, like here's the thing, like when and I even feel bad saying this, but when I go out with certain people who aren't doing cool stuff, sometimes I just feel like a loser, like straight up. Like maybe I'm an asshole for saying that, but when I'm out at like a typical dive bar or something like that, maybe it's a me problem, I don't know. I actually cannot enjoy myself. And there's a little voice in the back of my head that's like, you're a fucking loser. Get back to the, I don't even have an office, but like get back to the office type vibe, right?
Yeah.
But when I go on a cool trip or go celebrate, when I go on a cool trip with other young guys that are getting after it, it doesn't feel like I'm getting distracted or wasting time. It feels like I'm celebrating.
Yeah.
And then I come back home feeling even more motivated, like this weekend, like tomorrow we're going to like fucking table at Hocus Pocus, table at Space. Like it's gonna be a shit show, probably gonna feel like ass for a couple days, but I will go back and feel awesome after and inspired. And I don't know, I try and do that every like 3 or 4 months now.
Yeah.
Like 4 times a year. Then I'll probably lock in again until our trip.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably lock in again until Coachella.
Yeah. I will do trips like maybe a couple a year. It's funny because like, you know, I've only been into this career for a couple of years now, but I'll do like, I mean, last year, for an example, my first year, like I did one trip where I left and I took a break, and then I'll like go see family. I'm very good about spending time with my family.
Nice.
So like those will take up a lot of time, but then again, like if there's people I really like to spend time with, and I always need to have a meal, right? Because I get stuck in this vortex of just working all the time. Like, I just get dinner and talk and have a good time doing that. And then I'm like, all right, you got to get back to work. But with that said, like I go to art shows, right? And I have a lot of friends who either own the galleries, work at the galleries, or are showing in those shows, like the artists that are exhibiting. So like that's pretty social. But again, that's also part of work.
How's your network out here? Do you feel like you've built up? Because when did you get here officially?
I'm about a year and 3 months, I would say.
So do you feel like you built up a good
it's
network out
insane.
here?
It just keeps, it's like,
nice.
the people in Miami are really amazing. And like, if you meet a few, they introduce you to the people they know. And it's just been continuing like that. I mean, and also I have a lot of good friends, coincidentally enough, from my fraternity moved here.
So you still keep in contact with them?
Yeah.
Most of them? Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I love all those guys. And it was really unique where, like, if you get into certain circles, like, people that are similar tend to spend time with people that are similar. And, because of that, like, I really did enjoy the people, and that circle, like, kind of is proliferating now into my life here in Miami. But
what about girls? Are you, like, actively dating? I like to ask that all the time because it is such.
It's a good question.
It is so important, and I think at the end of the day, even though we all are, like, young guys getting after it and have our passions, like, I don't know, for me at least, like, the ultimate goal is, like, the fucking beautiful family.
Yeah.
Right? I think every guy needs that, right? And wants that. So, like, are you actively dating right now, or are you kind of just locked in?
I was, and it's funny because, like, I don't give many options as far as, like, friends or girlfriends go, where I'm like, okay, you can come see me while I'm in the studio painting. Like, you can sit on this couch, right, and watch me paint, and we'll talk. Or it's like, we can go to dinner again, like, and those are kind of the options. Sometimes I'd bring a girl to a show. But, like, yeah, to answer your question, like, I was dating a bit, like, in that capacity for, the last few months. But then, again, I just always return to, like, okay, what is it that I want out of life? And is this the answer currently? And is this a person, like, and then you start to be critical. You're like, okay, is this actually the person that I'm going to have that beautiful family with? And, like, I'm probably like, it doesn't seem like it. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Go, right now I'm currently at a hiatus from dating. I just want to take a break from it. It's like, even the dinners and stuff like that can be a lot for me on top of my schedule already.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not on my mind right now. But yeah, I mean, this summer, I went home to see family for a bit, or I had to really, but because of that, like, I started talking to some, but during that time, but no, it's like, it's such a commitment still.
It is.
It's hard, especially when you, like, there's a different thing, like, there's a lot of people who, go to work and they work a 9 to 5, and, like, usually, they have every weekend where they put time, like, they're like, okay, which I think, if people want to do that with their lives, that's great, but it's so far from, like, I'm just fully 7 days a week, always trying to be on, especially, like, if there is a day where, say, like, I had to drive down the Keys and see a family member, I'd still make sure that day, like, I didn't just take it off. Like, I'd at least spend, like, probably 6 hours of work. And whether that means pulling an all-nighter, it's like, I do every day by all means necessary, even, like, no matter how sick or tired I am. And, like, that then works its way into, like, my dating life too, which is just sort of, I've had to end relationships because they wanted too much from me. And, which, is understandable. Like, most girls, like, they want the guys to go on the trips with them and, like, always, like, go to movies or whatever it is. Like, and you're saying when you're out, like, doing stuff that you don't think is fully, like, has full utility for you, when you're trying to build something, like, it is very unsettling. And, like, trying to deal with that.
You can't actually you're physically there, but you're mentally back at the office, whatever you want to call it, whatever your location is.
And that makes it really tough for a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think you need someone, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like how I think you have a very balanced perspective. I like how you added in there, like, it's totally reasonable for a girlfriend to want to spend a lot of time with their boyfriend.
Yeah, I understand it all.
And you're just not in a place, and neither am I probably in our lives right now where we can give that. And so that means we either need to get done and accomplish what we feel is necessary now, or maybe hopefully you find someone that, like, fits into that piece of the puzzle. But yeah, I think that's life's toughest question, honestly. So
it is. It really is. And my parent, I call my mom and she's like, "Oh, have you been talking to the girls lately?" And sometimes I'll say, "Yeah," and a lot of times recently I've been saying no. But it's yeah, I mean, my parents have an amazing marriage.
Nice.
And it's something that, like, when you grow up with that, like, you realize the value of it. And you learn that, like, people that you've met too, funny enough, right, the most successful people you'll meet usually have great marriages and have this amazing family. And, like, it's It's a pretty solid indicator that it's not mutually exclusive, where like you can have an amazing family life, you can have an amazing relationship with your wife, girlfriend, whatever it is, and just navigate it your own personal way, but also reach like as much success as you could possibly hope for.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that is when you're in our age demographic, that is a puzzle. You just gotta figure it out. But
Well, where can people find your stuff? Obviously, we're gonna link. This is honestly much longer than we thought, so we could probably just turn this in. How long was this?
35 minutes.
Okay, yeah, maybe we turn this into like a little short podcast or something. Where can people find your stuff?
Instagram is the main way. It's JRYONKE, which is JR Yonke, but then YonkeArt.com. Those are the two main spots. Yeah.
And then what is the do you have anything that's really exciting for you coming up? Any big milestones, big events happening?
I will say that me working with a gallery that I'm happy with working with might come a lot sooner than I was thinking it would.
Nice.
And I'll leave it at that, but that is something that's feeling very good right now. But I mean, yeah, things just keep growing, and that's like you're feeding the organism and it's growing. Like that's the most rewarding and exciting stuff, really.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so one final question then that I just thought of. When you go about like your own growth, your own journey, are you setting goals and milestones, or are you primarily just focusing on like making everything as good as possible now and then letting those milestones kind of pop up like you just said?
I'm learning that they just come. You have to focus on, your day-to-day. What can I do to become the best person, fill in the blank, artist? What can I do to make my business the best today? And for this specific career, and yeah, any kind of your own business where you're an entrepreneur, that's what you have to do because you don't know where it's going to lead.
Yeah.
So with that concerted effort and just like, how can I evolve what I'm doing and how can I evolve myself is like kind of what I make a point to do.
I like that. I think that's actually something that I'm struggling with right now. I think what could I phrase it as? I'm the Shopify whore right now, where I get so addicted to just like pulling out my phone. What are our daily sales? What are our daily sales? Bro, it doesn't matter what our daily sales are. And I think it's it's so distracting from the real. I'm still building the business and trying to make it as good as possible, but I need to have all my energy there, and I know that the sales will come. But yeah, I think you probably have a better outlook on that and current process when it comes to that.
Well, the thing is, we all have those kind of very unique or specific kind of random struggles from day to day. And you also, and I figured this out only because people repeated it to me so many times, but like, you're not a robot. Like, you're doing great. And if you're doing everything you can, then you can put your head down at night and feel good about yourself. Not every day is going to go, and you're not going to always have perfect focus. Like, as long as you're doing that best effort and really doing it and not BSing yourself, and I can tell from observation that you are doing all the right things.
Appreciate it, man.
Of course, that, if you have a little bit of a slip up where you want to look at your sales data, that's fine. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, this is great. I appreciate it.
Of course, dude.
Sweet.